afternoon, and this is 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. A slightly, and only slightly, shortened edition of the program today. The Royals and Tigers, this entire series, did everything they could to get these games over with as quickly as possible, which maybe was a public service. Maybe they thought absolutely no one wants to watch Royals-Tigers at this point. You're just doing it because you feel obligated to. So we'll get through this as quickly as possible. I swear, the eighth inning, the bottom of the eighth, the Royals saw like 5 pitches and made 3 outs.
It had big getaway day energy today. You know, the further you get into the dog days of summer, especially if you are a losing team, as the Royals are, and you are playing another losing team, as the Tigers are. And I know the Tigers aren't like miles out of first place, but that's more a function of the futility of the American League Central than it is of anything special about the Tigers. They stink too. Let's not get it twisted. They don't stink as much as the Royals, but they stink.
Yeah.
When you get 2 stinky teams that are kind of already in play out the string mode, you get some quick ones. You get, a bit of eagerness to get back in the clubhouse on a day game. It's hot. Get back in the clubhouse, get a meal, get on the plane, get out of town. Both teams have flights. It definitely had getaway day energy today. And you could argue that the Royals offense never arrived, never mind getting away. As they are blanked by all-star Michael Lorenzen and 2 other Tigers pitchers in a 3-0 loss. Tigers take 3 out of 4 in the series. Royals dropped the other 2 by 1 solitary run, including a 3-2 loss last night. And that's over. And here we are.
This is from Christopher in the YouTube comment section. By the way, we would love to get your thoughts on everything we're talking about today, either on the text line 785-272-9429 or in the YouTube comment section. Our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Do you know how many times the Royals have been shut out this year?
It's a lot. I'm going to guess. I think they're into double digits by now, aren't they? Are they 10, 11?
12.
Oof.
12. The team record, also per our pal Christopher, 18. I don't think they will get shut out 18 times this year. I just don't know that there's enough time left for that. But this is, this is not what you want to hear when you're listening to a sports talk radio program, probably. But, what do you say at this point? This is bleak. This is as bad as it has been because there's just not really any hope for the rest of this year. If there was an elite prospect somewhere in AAA that you could call up and at least say, hey, you know what? For a month and a half, you're going to get to see player X. Say, oh, well, hey, that's a reason to be excited. Player X isn't coming. The best reason for the last several years to come to the ballpark has been Salvador Perez, who is great, was lovable as any player in Major League Baseball, franchise icon, future, at least Royals, if not Baseball Hall of Famer, all of that. He has been awful as of late. 0 for 4. He cycled through ways to get out today. He had a strikeout, a ground out into a double play, a line out, and a fly out. He did it all. Except for getting out on the base paths, I guess. It
left that to Kyle Isbell.
Yeah,
thrown out trying to stretch a double into a triple. And on the one hand, bad base running. On the other hand, hard to blame him for trying to make something happen because God knows nobody else was.
Yeah, and I know Matt Quattrero said that he wasn't a fan of that and he thinks Kyle Isbell would take it back if he got the chance. I don't know, man. Try. Do something. At least he was getting on base somehow, temporarily.
It happens so rarely that you got to forgive him for not being sure what to do when it does.
It's tough, man. And Greinke didn't throw a lot, but coming off the IL, not really a surprise.
Yeah, it was 4 innings. It was fine. Obviously, bumpy start, but he settled in. Bullpen, I think it was Quas gave up the run. Was it Quas?
I think you are correct.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, because Whitgren was clean. Heasley was clean. Cox was clean. I think it was Quas in the 7th, I want to say. That game flew. You have to forgive us if we're conflating some events here. But
Yeah,
No,
kind
it
of
was
outrageous.
Cox. It was Cox in the fifth. My mistake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Cox in the fifth that gave up the sack fly, made it 3-0. Heasley a clean sixth, Quas a clean seventh, and then Whitgren 2 scoreless to back everybody. But they got 4 hits, man, and 2 of them were extra base hits. MJ Melendez, another extra base hit, and didn't strike out, so today's a win on balance for him. But they threatened early. They had that threat with 2 on and 1 out in the second, and that went by the wayside. Massey ground into a fielder's choice, and Waters was retired, and that ended that threat, if you can call it that. And like you said, the deeper it got in the game, Holton for the Tigers, whose first name I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't remember it. And he wasn't in the game long enough for me to memorize it.
Tyler
Holton threw 5 pitches in the 8th inning. We said it felt like that 8th inning flew by. It did. 5 pitches in the 8th inning. Matt Duffy comes off the bench to pinch hit. And look, I'm not mad at that. Left-hander on the mound. You're down 3. You got to try and get something going. Matt Duffy, historically pretty good against left-handers. Get him off the oak. See if maybe he can kickstart something with 2 outs. Pinch hit him for your 9-hole hitter. I got no problem with the decision. What I got a problem with is Duffy jamming himself on the first pitch he sees and popping out. Like, I don't know. That's a veteran. That's not a young guy making a mistake. That's a veteran giving away a pinch hit at bat. And that just, that tells me that's where the energy of the Royals was today is let's get this thing done in a hurry and let's get on an airplane.
By the way, I did a quick dive into the numbers. By getting shut out today, the Royals now lead the majors in times being shut out this season.
That sounds about right.
They were previously tied with the Oakland A's, who have been shut out 11 times this year. I hate to pile on because I know a lot of you care. I know a lot of you have been very negative about the Royals this year as well, sometimes even more negative than us, which, like, go for a walk. Like, take a breath. Like, I don't want you to get sick thinking of how much you hate your favorite baseball team. But here's a little update for you on where the Royals rank offensively, because the pitching today is not why you lost. You give up 3 runs, you should be in the game at the very least. Here's where the Royals rank in the American League entering today in offensive stats. 14th in runs scored, 11th in hits and doubles, first in triples, though. More triples than anyone else in the American League.
The K has always been a great triples park. Word to Willie Wilson.
14th in home runs.
That's about right.
3rd in stolen bases.
Mm-hmm.
14th in times caught stealing. 14th in walks. I can't believe they're not last. 11th in strikeouts. 11th in batting average. Dead last on base. 13th in slug. 13th in OPS. First in the major, or in the AL in sack flies, though. They're just killing it there. I mean, that's brutal, man. That really, really is tough. We got 82 home runs for the year.
Yeah, it's a lousy offense, and you want to see signs of life for some guys, and there have been some moments. Obviously, we've talked. Bobby Witt Jr.'s had a good last month and a half, and Drew Waters, even though he went 0 for today, had been in a pretty good little run, and Nick Prado had a good month, and Salvador Perez has 15 home runs, and Edward Olivares is an average big league hitter, roughly. Freddie Fermin's had some moments, but like moments and flashes here and there are not how you build a lineup. You need stability. You need consistency. You need guys who are a threat on a night in, night out basis. Instead, you've got Kyle Isbell and his sub 600 OPS batting second.
Yep.
That's the second most at bats. That's a pretty important spot in the batting order. There are a lot of people who believe that's where you should put your best hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And today the Royals batted Kyle Isbell second. And that is not conducive to having a great offense. As much as I think that Kyle Isbell has a big league skill set in the outfield, can't hit, man. Can't hit.
He is, entering today, he has the second worst OPS of any of the Royals' regular 9 players. You know who's worse? Only one with a worse OPS? Michael Massey, who went 0 for 3 today. We are also now, and I know this just sounds like reading the back of the baseball cards, but it really is kind of jarring just how horrific this has gotten. Taking out Vinny because he's on the 60-day IL, there are 2 Royals everyday players who have an OPS plus, that's, again, normalized to 100, that's the league average, who are above average, 2. They are both entering today 101. 1% above the league average. That's the best mark of any everyday Royal. Salvi, who went 0 for 4 today, so that probably dipped 2 or below league average. And Bobby Witt, who did not play because he's banged up. That's it. And then if you want to go to the bench, you've got Dairon Blanco at a cool 101 as well. And the best OPS plus on the entire team, the entire roster, is Freddie Fermin. That cannot happen on a team that has Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt and MJ Melendez and all these other dudes who you need production from. That can't be the case.
It is most definitively not what you want.
It sucks, man. It is unfortunate that this is where the Kansas City Royals are. We would love to get your thoughts on today's Royals game. Hit us up either on the text line. You know the number, 785-272-9429. And you can hop into the comment section as well on YouTube. Our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Another note from Christopher. He says, when the Detroit Tigers are 17 games ahead of you, you're in severe need of soul searching. Mark also adds that, hey, when August and September come around, are we really going to be worrying about this team? That's true. I mean, once the veterans report to Chiefs camp, the Royals season is, for content purposes and for you as a local fan purposes, probably over. So at least you have that to look forward to. We do have to get to a quick break here in this first 25 minutes of the show. Again, late start because of the Royals game, but we're with you until 6 o'clock. We do have a bunch to get to on the show coming up today, including some audio from Chiefs camp and a whole lot more. So we'll talk about all that coming up here in just a little bit on 580 Sports Talk.
This radio
Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started, even though it's already 3:50. We joined you late today because of the Royals' latest soul-crushing loss to the Detroit Tigers. Coming up on today's show, though, as I mentioned a few moments ago, we will hear from a handful of Kansas City Chiefs, Isiah Pacheco, Mike Edwards, and Shamari Connor, all coming up next hour. All of them spoke at camp earlier today. We've also got today's What Is Wrong With You, 2 new stories duking it out. And the conference schedules for Big 12 basketball came out earlier today. Not the official dates, but we now know who everyone is playing at home, away, and who everybody is doubling up with. And at least as it pertains to KU's schedule, I'm peeved. I'm not happy with who KU is playing and when and where they are playing one particular conference rival coming up this year. So we'll get to that and K-State's schedule, of course, as well in the 4 o'clock hour. Plenty of 580 Sports Talk headlines to get to. Capitol Hill still getting involved in the NIL space in college sports, including a senator from our fair state. Senator Jerry Moran is one of the co-sponsors of this bipartisan bill. And we will talk about this in the 5 o'clock hour. And this is not a commentary on Senator Moran. It is not a commentary about his work or anything like that.
Or, for that matter, the work of the other two senators attached to this legislature, Cory Booker from New Jersey and Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, both Democrats.
My commentary is solely about this specific proposed bill. It sucks. It is very bad. And
it's not good.
I don't think it is going to go through for what it's worth, but we should touch on it.
We should point out the exact ways in which it is bad.
Correct.
Which start with it essentially gives the NCAA subpoena power and goes from there.
Yeah, if you don't want the NCAA getting all up in your business, you're not going to like this bill. Also, the TBT began yesterday. It's still going on today. The K-State alumni are going to play tonight. The Wichita State alumni are tonight. And KU played last night and almost lost to some D3 alums. It was hairy there for a while, but thankfully Kansas had Thomas Robinson and the D3 team did not. So we'll talk about whether we're in or out on the TBT, the basketball tournament, later on today. I did want to touch on this real quick, Dan. Plus, of course, your comments, your texts, all that throughout the show. You know the drill. I did want to touch on this because this is late breaking news. We'll get to this even ahead of headlines. It is official. The NFL ownership collective has unanimously approved the sale of the Washington Commanders from Dan Snyder to the group led by Philadelphia 76ers owner Josh Harris for $6.05 billion. It is official, Washington Commanders fans. Your team has a new owner. This is a good day. This is a great day for them. If you're a fan of Washington football, this is probably the best day you have had since the last time you won a Super Bowl. What was that, 91? Is that when they won the Super Bowl last?
Yeah, 91. Word to Mark Rippon.
Yeah, this is probably your best day since then. And for the NFL, this is good too. Get Dan Snyder out. Get rid of him. That is better for everyone for so many reasons.
He has been a pox on the group of owners in the NFL just about since he joined that fraternity. In 24 seasons as owner, tweets Adam Schefter of ESPN. Washington appeared in the playoffs 6 of those 24 years, so a quarter of the time. They won 2 playoff games. They did not appear in the NFC Championship game. They had 10 head coaches in those 24 seasons, 27 different starting quarterbacks, and a .427 winning percentage, which ranked 27th in the NFL. Still in all, despite 24 seasons of largely ineptitude and some pretty gross personal conduct as well that ultimately proved to be his undoing, Dan Snyder today sold a franchise that he purchased for $800 million for $6.05 billion. Schefter does the math so we don't have to. That is a 700% return on investment.
Yeah, he's pocketing over $5 billion from this, which is crappy.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, you don't like when bad people end up making out like bandits.
We'll show you, Dan Snyder. Here's $5 billion.
Yeah, that does suck. Here's a great stat for you, though. During Dan Snyder's ownership, Washington had more names than playoff wins.
Yeah, they had the slur, and then they were the football team there for a little bit, and now they're the Commanders.
They won 2 playoff games since Dan Snyder bought the team in 1999. Josh Harris doesn't even need to be a good owner, but he's a much better owner.
The bar is on the floor.
Yeah,
that was such a proud franchise too.
I mean, with one of the most passionate fan bases in American sports.
Yeah,
and they just don't care now.
Yeah, like though in the last 24 years, the enthusiasm has been dampened. People stay away from that stadium in droves for lots of reasons. Yeah, they were a disgrace even before you got to the fact that their mascot was a racial slur for years and years. And that just was an extra gross layer on top of it all, as much as Snyder dug his heels in about that name until he finally was compelled to change his mind on it. And even that could not obviously erase the stink of all of the on-field failures and the myriad off-the-field failures of Daniel Snyder. His legacy is one of unmitigated disgrace, and it is a happy day, certainly, for Washington football fans.
We've got a statement from Roger Goodell. He says, quote, "Congratulations to Josh Harris and his impressive group of partners. Josh will be a great addition to the NFL. That's mostly because he's rich. He is That's not Goodell. That's me. He is a remarkable record in business, sports, and in his communities. The diverse group that Josh has put together is outstanding for its business acumen and strong Washington ties, and we welcome them to the NFL as well. I met Josh several years ago prior to his acquisition of an interest in the Steelers, and have been fortunate to get to know him better over the past few months. I know he has a commitment to winning on the field, but also to running an organization that everyone will be proud of and to making positive contributions in the community." If he gets them to having a league average stadium and a league average treatment of people,
yeah,
he instantly, in terms of percentage change, becomes the best owner in the NFL.
Yeah, again,
by that metric,
the bar is on the floor. It's not going to take much to clear it.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. But good for the NFL, and if you're a Washington fan, good for you. You deserve to have better than this, because you stuck through a team that truly, honestly, really admittedly did not care about you for a long time. So very good for you. Let's get to a break for our national and local news. We'll come back to lead off the 4 o'clock hour, hearing from a trio of Chiefs at training camp today, right here on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, it's time for the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. Thank you so much for joining us today. Shortened show because of the Royals' loss for the Tigers, but we are beyond that. We have evolved beyond the need to talk about Royals-Tigers today. We as a people are beyond that. We are past that. This is like when people decided they no longer thought Dude Perfect was cool, which I guess isn't quite here yet because they put them on Amazon for NFL games last year.
Yeah, the kids apparently not included in that particular take.
Yeah, this is like
the kids, the youths
determining they didn't want those silly bands on their wrists anymore.
Yeah,
or realizing that maybe having 14 Livestrong bracelets at once is actually not a cool look. That's a personal dig. I had 12 at one point. I had a lot of rubber I donated to here. Support this.
You were living strong, huh?
Yeah, no. I was living strong. All right, big time.
I only ever had one of those, and it was for Popeyes. And
wow, that rules. Yeah, it kind of jumped.
I didn't wear it all the time.
It kind of jumped the shark when it went from the yellow Livestrong. Oh, this one's for ovarian cancer. I had a JDRF diabetes one. Then it was I visited this place for vacation. Oh, I like this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we kind of lost the message.
That
here.
one says Seattle Mariners. Why?
Wow, this is my credential to get into Big 12 media days.
Yeah, Jake and I were living strong. Also, bad for the brand when the Livestrong guy ended up being the biggest cheater in the history of sports.
Yeah, not great. Not especially good.
Yeah, bad for not just bad for Livestrong, bad for wearing colored bracelets.
Yeah,
the trend has never been the same.
It became a little passe thanks to old Lance, but we will move past a tough Royals loss today. We've got a lot to get to in this 4 o'clock hour. That includes a handful of Chiefs who spoke today at training camp. We'll get to that audio here in just a second. Also, today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. And the Big 12 released the opponents home and away for the Big 12 basketball season this year, the conference basketball season. We don't know the exact dates or order of these games, but we know who KU and K-State will be playing at home, who they'll be playing on the road, and which teams they will have a home and home with. And I've got beef with KU's schedule. Big beef with KU's. K-State's, I don't think I have quite as big of a problem with, but K-State, we had the big problem with the football schedule since they don't play Oklahoma. So now it's KU's turn to have some beef about something. So we'll break those down coming up in the bottom part of this 4 o'clock hour. Your texts are still welcome. Text line number is 785-272-9429. And you can check us out on YouTube as well, where our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. If you're not a subscriber or you don't know where to find us, it is super easy to do. Just go to youtube.com, sign in with your YouTube account, Google, Gmail, whatever Google company accounts you have. Sign in, search Sports on 580. We're the first result. Click on us, subscribe, check out all of our old videos, our draft stuff that's still headlining on the front page. All of our recaps of KU and K-State sporting events are there, plus today's and everyday's live video stream and comment section on our channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. So with that, let's get to training camp from earlier today. The Kansas City Chiefs had a trio of players step up. We got a returning player. It's not really a veteran because it's only year 2, but a returning player in Isiah Pacheco. You've got a free agent acquisition in Mike Edwards, and you've got a rookie in Shamari Connor. So really running the gamut of type of players the Chiefs sent to the podium today. Let's start with the, I would argue, I think easily, most important part of this trio. That is running back Isiah Pacheco, who had some really good news about the health of his hand and his availability for week 1 this year, and some other thoughts as he begins his second training camp with the Chiefs. So, without further ado, let's hear from Chiefs starting running back Isiah Pacheco.
Surgeries and everything. How did that go? How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling great right now. It just, it's a process, and that takes time, and for me to just continue to listen to the staff and trust in myself.
What was in that Super Bowl, playing that game with those injuries and getting through it and everything? What was it like? I mean, what did you kind of have to do and tell yourself to get through that?
It wasn't bothering me. We had 2 weeks to recover. I got a little injured in the championship game, so we had 2 weeks to recover. I was, I was good with the recovery, what we did with the staff, and I was able to play. They got me right.
How often do you find yourself having to sort of check yourself? Because I'm sure you want to be able to do everything, especially missing OTAs now as you're getting eased in.
That's daily, man. So for me, I'm just being unsatisfied and willing to work. Just it's more to work, and like I said, and that takes with the unit. And when they get here, I know we're going to have a good time.
So you had the injury in the AFC Championship game. Was the shoulder already hurt too, or?
Yeah, shoulder was already hurt, but it wasn't a big problem.
What about you? Year 1 to year 2. What are you trying to look forward to improving upon?
Is the details. Detailing my notes more. Just finding little things to get better at. And for me, I want to run for 1,000 yards. So that's the goal, obviously. But it starts here today. Practice day by day.
What were you able to do during the offseason to work on your game?
Not as much, but for me, I trust the staff, and we're able to work out a plan. I'm getting back into shape, and we're working.
You looked yesterday like you were one of the most energetic guy out there. Was that by design?
Nah, that's just me. That's me every day, and I'm saying ain't never gonna get no more better than that.
You saw you at the White House, the ESPYs. What was your favorite part of the offseason and why?
My favorite part of offseason was the ring ceremony. Reuniting with the guys that we played all season with to get that and achieve it. So seeing those guys again, and then in the White House, it was reunited. For me, it just felt like a team.
5 years with the young guys, man, the rookies. What is that one thing that you're telling them that you wish you would have known coming into the camp?
What I would have known coming in, I would say everything that you're looking forward to is just taking it day by day. So like I said to the rookies, take it day by day. I'm saying you just got to keep detailing your notes and find more ways to get better every day.
I said, based on your conversations with the training setup and how you're feeling, do you think you're going to be completely good to go 100% by week 1?
Absolutely.
When do you think you'll be involved in student?
Whenever coaches allow me to play, and when he says you're good to go, that's when I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna show.
What was the hardest part of last season for you? I'd say to sort of what you felt you had to overcome to obviously have an ending like you wanted last year.
I don't think there was nothing I had to overcome. It was just outworking myself and finding ways to get better, and that came with the coaches.
So you on the side working out. It seems like that workout is much tougher than practice.
Absolutely. Just finding that edge, and that's for me. Just those little details and pushing myself the hard as I can. So when that time comes, when the coach says I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Can you talk about the conditions today, the heat that everybody faced?
Oh, it's just hot. It's going to get hotter. For me, I've been here before, so I know what's to come, and I'm unsatisfied, so I just got to keep working.
Are you eager to see how other teams are going to try to counter you this upcoming season because of what you did last year, and trying to sort of stay ahead of the pace in that aspect, trying to show them something different?
For me, I'm really not worried about the teams. I'm worried about one team, and that's us right now. And when that first team comes, take it one game at a time.
What do you enjoy most about training camp from last year's experience?
It's the work. You know what I'm saying? This is where you get the most out of it, and ain't nothing better than camp when you with your guys and you pushing each other day in, day out to get better.
Since the beginning of last year, how much do you feel like you've come along in the passing game, and how much are you looking forward to getting more involved in that?
Just finding those extra catches after practice and just getting my hands prepared for when Pat decides to throw it. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready.
Isaiah, what do you think of the Derek so far? Say it again. The Derek Prince, what do you think of him so far?
Oh, he's good. He's going to keep working. There's more to come. There's more to learn. And like I said, it's day by day. It takes time, but he's working hard. He's a good worker, and that's what we do. We work hard.
Were you glad to see Jared re-sign with the team and come back? I'm sure he was helpful for you last year.
Absolutely. Jared was definitely a leader, and he still calls and check up on us even day in and day out so far, checking in. So excited to wait to get to him.
Isaiah, you talk about being on the side, being in the jack and everything. Just how long have you had that joy, and just where does that come from?
Man, right now I'm backed up on a little bit of, you know what I'm saying, play. So it's for me, I got to let that energy out. So that's what I'm going to do when I'm on the field.
Two more, we'll go Nate and then Emily. Go ahead, Nate.
Isaiah, with the rehab, when did you feel, obviously you started day one basically here, but when did you feel that the rehab put you in a position to be available this early into camp?
That was getting the rehab right after the Super Bowl and hitting on it hard. So therefore, when the time come like this, I'm prepared.
Did you feel like you do that after the ring ceremony, or was there something that you did between the ring ceremony and training camp just to make sure you were ready for this?
Just the mindset. I work hard every day and day out. Unsatisfied, like I said, so I just had to keep finding that edge and keep working.
Emily?
Someone mentioned something about the White House, and we recently asked Andy Reid about what was his favorite part in the food aspect, because there was a big spread. What was your favorite food at the White House?
I say the ham and cheese with the French toast bread.
That is Isiah Pacheco, the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. I will admit that sounds kind of good.
That's a Monte Cristo, right?
I believe so, yes. I do believe that is a Monte Cristo. But that is Chiefs starting running back Isiah Pacheco. The most interesting thing I took from what he said right there was about getting used to being ready more often and knowing when to be ready to catch the ball when Mahomes decides to throw it to you. And the reason why is that tells me that he's kind of paid attention to how this team works, and it is dictated by your quarterback, number 15. There are other players. I will not name names, and I will not specifically single out guys like, McCole Hardman, who never quite got that and never quite got the whole always finish your route, always keep running, always stay ready kind of thing. So that to me is an impressive reflection of Pacheco and a positive one that, look, you know that you need to be ready. You need to be willing in the passing game. You need to be a complete back to play for this team, and that's a natural progression for him.
And it's a way for him to get more snaps, too, because he lost a lot of snaps in those passing downs to Jerick McKinnon. And that's more because McKinnon was really good than any specific failure from Isiah Pacheco. But I think Pacheco's a young player, as anybody. You want to be on the field for as many snaps as you can possibly be.
Yep.
And the road to playing more snaps as a running back is be able to make plays in the passing game. So it's promising that he's identify that as an area of needed improvement.
Next up, let's get to Mike Edwards, who is a free agent signing this offseason from Tampa, spent a few years in the league. He's still fairly young. I think he's entering just year 5 in the NFL, but he is the oldest of the 3 players we're going to hear from today. I think Edwards has a chance to be a real impact player for this team this year. I do think he is going to find a way to make an impact because of the fact that the secondary doesn't really have stardom in it. I think a lot of the safeties have potential, and I think Edwards factors into that. So let's hear what Mike Edwards has to say as he gets ready for his first training camp under Andy Reid.
How are you adjusting to being a member of the Chiefs, and how's the adjustment period been so far?
It's been good. Learning a new playbook, learning a new system is always tough. Seemed like a rookie again, but a little more knowledge though. But definitely a good thing to learn new defense and trying to hone in and soak in everything. So pretty good so far.
Can you take us through your decision-making process coming to Kansas City?
Yeah, it's kind of just weighing out the options and seeing what the market was, and just trying to see what the best fit for me. Talking to my family, my agent, and everything, and this is kind of the best option, best fit for me.
What makes it a good fit for you here?
Everything, the coaching staff, to Andy Reid, down to Spags, to Coach Merritt and everything. They just overall great defensive system and great coaching staff, and I love the players here. Won a Super Bowl last year. It always, a good winning program. So I want to come to some part like that.
How did you come to the decision to come to this camp specifically?
To this?
Yeah, the camp.
Kind of dealing with a little injury from OTAs and everything. So I wanted to bounce back and trying to get ahead on everything before everybody else came back. So just trying to get ahead on everything.
What was the injury and how did you work through it?
Just hamstrings, a little hamstring. So I was didn't want to rush anything. Just, been in the league 5 years, kind of know everything in my body. So kind of just wanted to ease my way back in and kind of 100% now. So I'm good.
Andy Reid's camps are known throughout the league for being a little bit tougher. Have you gotten the feel? You're not in full veteran mode yet, but
right.
Have you gotten the feel that that's true?
Yeah, it's real for sure. It's not like how it is. It's gonna be, when everybody else come back in a few weeks or whatever. I know it's gonna ramp up even more. So got to get in top shape. But even now, it's tough. It's tough. So it's good work though. It's definitely what everybody needs, and everybody be ready for first game and everything. So good work.
What do you kind of anticipate being your role with this team? Because, obviously you got Justin here, and Brian's an up-and-coming guy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of see yourself fitting in?
wherever they need me, safety, dime, nickel, wherever they want to fit me at. I know we got guys all over from, top to bottom, playing dime, corner. Everybody's playing. We got a lot of DBs, so wherever they want to fit me in, I'll fit in wherever. Trying to learn, like I said, learn the playbook, learn each spot, in the in and outs of the defense. So wherever they want me at.
What have been your impressions so far, the guys in your group and everything?
Oh, phenomenal. They real coachable. They want to learn. That's what I love. Good playmakers. Everybody wants to learn. Like I said, everyone wants to make a play. And from the top, Jay Reed been here. He been in the league for 6 years. So he's kind of like the veteran guy out there. So he's a good, knowledgeable guy. So I learned from him when I first got here. And we got guys all over, like I said. So everybody come in and play. Everybody just ready to work.
What are your early impressions of Chamari?
Chamari's a phenomenal player. I mean, he's a rookie. He's kind of like me, kind of when I was a rookie. He learns very well. You can see he got some things you can't teach as far as like instincts and everything. He just has that. Some people can't have that, and you see that from him. He can play all over. He can play dime, safety. So he could be used all over. So I really like how he's improved.
What have your impressions been of Justin Reed and Brian Cook, even though you weren't on the field with them in OTAs, just in the meeting room and such?
Yeah, they're real smart. Like I said, Jay Reed been in the league for a long time. He's, the veteran guy out there, so learn from him. And Brian B. Cook, he doesn't look like he was just a rookie last year. He looks phenomenal. He's making all the calls back there and look like a vet out there. So my guy, be with him from Cincinnati, so got that Cincinnati tie, so gotta love him. So we're doing good back there.
A lot of players, when they first get here, they'll talk about seeing the standard being different from other places. Do you see that, or have you noticed that yet? I know it's kind of early.
Yeah, for sure. You can see why they win all the time. From training camp, OTAs, mini camp, everything. They just do it the right way, and they do it hard. Challenge everybody. Keep everybody to a high standard. And like I said, you can see why they win. You can see why they got going for championship, won Super Bowl every year. That's the main goal, is win a Super Bowl.
Last two, let's go Nate and Blair. Here you go.
You talked about learning the playbook. Spags playbook has been known to be pretty tough. How comfortable are you with it, and where are you learning right now?
Yeah, it's tough. Going back from when I was in Tampa, bowl system was kind of tough too. So it kind of carried me over to this. It's a whole different playbook. But like I said, it got me right for this playbook. And he got a lot of great things in, a lot of great schemes in, people coming all over the place. So it's a good thing. It's a good fit. So just trying to learn it, get, feel it in and out of the playbook. So that's all it is to it.
Just curious, did you have any conversations with the Chiefs pre-draft back 4 or 5 years ago?
I don't think so, no.
Like, everybody wants to be on the field, everybody wants to be a starter, but obviously what it's like to win a Super Bowl yourself. Can you share what it's like to try to have that right blend or that right mix of wanting to be a contributor, but obviously when you become a free agent, wanting to go to a team that can actually contend for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, year we won the Super Bowl, I actually wasn't the main starter, but when we did play Kansas City in the Super Bowl, we kind of ran like a 3 safety look, 6 DBs on the field, so we kind of just mixed in and out, all different personnel. So I would say, even if you're not starting, I feel like everybody's, a lot of guys going to play in and out. And even if you don't start, like I said, you got to be ready because somebody always will come down, get injured, or, whenever your time is up, you got to be ready. So that's kind of how I took it when I was a backup, kind of like a third safety my first 2-3 years, and then, came as a starter. So like I said, I always got to be ready no matter what.
That's sort of the whole aura of the Chiefs, right? You got to be ready no matter what, because either you're going to have to step up for someone injured, or offensively, like we just talked about with Isiah Pacheco, you might be getting the ball on any given play. Plays are never dead with Patrick Mahomes. But that is Mike Edwards, the newest defensive back for the Kansas City Chiefs, newest veteran defensive back, we should say. But let's close it out with a rookie from the 4th round, Shamari Connor out of Virginia Tech, who played as many special team snaps as anybody in all of college football over his career. 800 plus special team snaps in his college career. He's going to factor into the defensive back rotation as well. Kind of plays a similar role to L'Jarius Sneed. Let's hear what the Virginia Tech product Shamari Connor had to say this afternoon.
How's your first Chiefs camp going for you?
It's going good. Feel good to be back out here. getting back in the swing of things.
Well, how's it compare to Virginia Tech or camps from Virginia Tech now?
I say they similar. It's a lot of similarities, so I'm kind of used to the college camp type of thing, so it's been going pretty good.
It looks like so far you've been asked to kind of do a few different things and line up at different spots. Do you kind of relish that? I mean, is that something you feel comfortable with?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely comfortable with it. I've been doing it for most of my career, so it's definitely something that I like doing and feel comfortable doing.
What's been the best thing so far about working with Steve Spagnuolo?
Just learning from Coach Spaz. He always on me. So just to get all the information from him and learn from somebody who's been doing it so long, it's been great for me. So
Mike said you have some traits that he saw himself when he was working Mike Edwards. Just what have you learned from him, and what does it mean just to hit some of that so early in camp?
I'm learning a lot. I can always ask Mike questions or, get some feedback from him. But it's been great just to see a guy that been doing it for a minute, been in the league for a while, and just be able to learn from them. So it's been good.
What's Dave Merritt's message to you been early through OTAs and now as you kind of transition to training camp?
Kind of just get the information and, put it on the field, just so that I can do it and just apply myself. So.
Steph usually likes to load up rookies with high volume. You can learn a lot of things right away. How have you used strategy to manage that as you go here?
I think it's been pretty good, going through OTAs, being able to already see most of what I'm learning. So just being able to already get it, then come back and learn it again, been really good for me.
How great is it to have a camp for just the rookies and a couple of veterans so you get a little more attention?
It's great to, be out here before the vets get back in the swing of things before they come, because you already know when they come, it's go time. It's already go time, but it's definitely going to be up when the vets get here. So it's great to get here early and get on the field, get in the swing of things.
Does it feel a little surreal? Do you pinch yourself at all when you see Pat Mahomes on the other side and you're trying to defend him at quarterback?
Yeah, it's definitely surreal. It's something that I've been wanting to do my whole life, just to be able to make it to this level. So it's definitely surreal, but I'm used to it. And I kind of in OTAs it was like that, but I kind of got it now.
What's been the biggest learning curve for you in your opinion getting out here and working with the team?
I'd say just playing fast and just trying to play fast and get all the information that they've been giving out. So just getting the information.
Hearing guys kind of talk about their rings and the ring ceremony, does that motivate you at all to be a part of a team that wins another one?
Oh, that definitely motivates me. I definitely want to be a Super Bowl winner, so definitely motivate me a lot for this upcoming season and the rest of my career.
We're still a little ways away from when you get to put on the pads and really get your first NFL contact. Are you looking forward to that? Are you kind of relishing what it's going to be like when you get to that level and you get to that intensity?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's football. That's what we do. We put the pads on. We go hit guys. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Next week, you have the fans here. You have, the vets here. What are you looking forward to most, and what have you learned, about St. Joe? Have you heard anything prior to coming?
Oh, I haven't really heard much, but I say just to keep building, keep stacking days, and keep learning from when the vets get here, keep learning from those guys, and just put it on display.
Yesterday, some of the draft picks talked about this rookie class being very close. Last night, your first night in the dorm. Do you kind of see how this environment and what you're expecting with this group, to bond?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely great being with this rookie class. Bonding with those guys and getting even closer than before, than in OTAs, because definitely we all stand together. So yeah, it's been great getting with those guys.
Any pranksters in the group?
Nah, not yet that I've seen.
So that is Chiefs rookie defensive back Shamari Connor in his first training camp media availability earlier today. So we got to hear from a couple of the new Chiefs defensive backs, a group that's going to have a lot of pressure on it this year. A lot of young guys, handful of new guys, and some guys who are going to have to step up as well. We heard a little bit about Brian Cook. I couldn't remember his first name. I was going to say Blake Cook, but that is obviously not his name. Brian Cook in there as well from Mike Edwards a little bit earlier. So a lot of pressure on that group during this season. And of course, we'll talk about that more as training camp drags on throughout the summer. Right now, we've got to get to a break. We've got What Is Wrong With You coming up next, though, right here on 580 Sports Talk.
What the hell?
It's time to find today's winner in What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply here on 580 Sports Talk. Our current weekly winner, it's the speeding sheriff's deputy, the chief sheriff's deputy for a town in Georgia.
Henry County.
Henry County, that's right.
He's a county chief deputy.
He was speeding. He was in a 35, and then he was driving 96. That's 61 miles an hour over the speed limit. You cannot be doing that. Real quick, I wanted to make sure this wasn't your story today. I know it's not mine. It's not yours either. See the other speeding story in the news today?
Jordan Addison.
Yeah, Jordan Addison out of USC, played a couple years at Pitt as well, drafted this year by the Minnesota Vikings, was busted speeding in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. He was going 140. That's 85 miles over the speed limit. Now, granted, he's not a sheriff's deputy, but that's still extremely dangerous. That's like death wish driving.
Yeah, you're lucky. Worst thing to happen to you is you got a ticket.
Yeah, that's... I will not stay on my soapbox too long here, but and I know Jordan Addison's young. I know he's not even really a rookie yet. How do you not see what happened with Henry Ruggs a year ago and not say, wow, maybe I shouldn't do this? It's just dumb. It is so preposterously dumb. And yes, he's extremely lucky that all that happened was he got ticketed for that. But anyway, our speeding sheriff's deputy, that is our current winner for the week. My story today is going to take us down to Florida. Or is this in Florida? I guess you got to double check where this story is coming to us from. Or going to California, actually. The Bay Area, Hayward, California, where a driver who police say was doing donuts was recently arrested. And then they found guns and drugs inside of his car. The driver, who was behind the wheel of a Corvette C7 Stingray, was spotted doing donuts near downtown Hayward. Police department officers pulled them over for reckless driving, and the car was impounded for 30 days. The driver was also found to be in possession of a suspended license. All right, so let's keep a tally here. He was recklessly driving. That's crime number one. Driving on a suspended license. That's crime number two. A search of the impounded car revealed a loaded handgun with an extended magazine not registered to the driver. That's crime 3. Suspected narcotics and narcotics sales contraband was also found in the car. That is crime number 4. A photo posted by the Hayward PD showed a handgun, several rounds of ammunition, bags of cannabis and pills, and an undetermined amount of cash. And we have the photo in front of us, in fact, from the Hayward PD. I don't really know exactly how to quantify how much weed is a lot of weed, but I will tell you this, that is a lot of weed. It's just a gigantic green bag. And also a gun and a ton of pills.
Yeah, not what you want to be running around and doing. It's like you're trying to hit a Yahtzee, like a crime Yahtzee.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he hit the grand slam here. He had 4 crimes he was committing all at once. Why not go for the 5 for 5?
And he might have gotten away with all of this stuff if he hadn't been, doing donuts.
See, that's the dumb thing. Like, if you know you've got multiple felonies on your person right now, why would you go out and draw attention to yourself? That's what I don't understand. Maybe you have this weird, like, fetishization for getting caught, but I just don't understand. Like, if I was carrying an illegal substance in my car, you know what I wouldn't do? Try to make the police notice me. That seems like a bad idea. But then again, I'm here and not in jail, so I guess I'll take the high ground for that one.
For my story today, we don't have to go far. If I may quote Jack White, I'm going to Wichita for my story today. And we meet a gentleman that the owner of Cannabliss refers to on social media as Tank Top Tommy. Apparently, the owner of the Cannabliss chain of stores, which you can probably guess what kind of products they offer. Brett Harris is quite the social media maven and will frequently post some videos and pictures and things like that. He posted video of a break-in at one of his Wichita locations. So this gentleman broke into the cannabis store. He kicked down the window while wearing flip-flops, which wild move.
Yeah, pro move.
Like
there.
Legitimately impressive. That
Yeah.
he was able to kick through a glass window wearing flip-flops. Very lucky he didn't, like sever any tendons or anything in the process. Anyhow, so he goes through the store. And it's, it's late at night and the security cameras are watching, but nobody else is watching. He doesn't need to be in any kind of hurry. But ultimately, the gentleman leaves with just one item out of the store. A half-used bottle of Febreze. That is the only thing that Wichita police was able to find on him when they did apprehend him in like 7 minutes. A citizen spotted him coming out the window, and he was apprehended in 7 minutes. So, as Harris says in the video, it wasn't like they had to follow the scent, if you know what I mean. So, it's not the first time that one of Harris's Cannabliss stores has been broken into. He had to close his location in downtown Wichita because it was so frequently a target of crime. In February, somebody broke into his window and took off with hundreds of dollars worth of THC products. So Harris probably assuming about the same when he saw this footage, which, by the way, of course, is in 4K. So even if the guy had gotten away for longer than 7 minutes, he would have been very easy to find eventually. But no, all the guy took was a half-empty bottle of Febreze.
What does our good pal Jake always say? Go for the big score.
Go for the big score.
I mean, maybe he just really wanted to, freshen his place up. You'd think you'd find a full bottle of it, though, honestly. I still can't get over he kicked it in wearing just flip-flops.
Kicked in the glass window.
You've got to have just no regard for the safety of your feet at that point. Like, you're getting cut up all over the place.
That's wild, right?
Yeah. I'm disturbed that he went through all that. Like, you destroyed your foot. You kicked in the glass with a flip-flopped foot, all to grab a bottle of Febreze. The juice is not worth the squeeze. It can't possibly be.
No.
I feel bad for my guy here, too. Brett Harris. Like, dang, why do your stores get robbed so often?
Because he's got THC.
I guess you got to get your fix.
Guess he's got the good stuff.
Who do you have today? Who's your winner?
I got to go with the guy who stole only a bottle of Febreze. Did the most to steal the least.
Yeah, I don't think either of these takes down our speeding sheriff's deputy.
No.
This is not quite the chief deputy going 61 miles an hour over the speed limit and then having, I guess it's one of his subordinates technically.
Yeah.
Just a regular police officer who stops him and says, yeah, I don't like this guy, so I'm going to write him up. No preferential treatment from me. This guy's getting written up.
Sorry, I don't much care for you. You were not kind to me in a previous interaction.
No, I love that. I think that police officer wins that story for sure.
100%.
But that remains our winner this week in What Is Wrong With You, which as always is sponsored by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications. That saves your time, your money, and your material. Never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Coming up on the other side of this break, the Big 12 announced who everybody will be playing and where they will be playing for the college basketball conference season this winter. But I've got some beef with some of the scheduling. I'll tell you what it is next on 580 Sports Talk.
This radio commercial was made to convince.
.44 on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. Thanks so much for spending some of this Thursday afternoon with us following the Royals game against the Tigers earlier today. Also earlier this afternoon, the Big 12 announced who everybody in the league will be playing in the conference basketball season this winter. We don't have the exact dates or the order of these games, but we know who KU, K-State, and the rest of the league will be playing at home and away, including who they will play home and away series with this year. The double round robin is gone. And in fact, everybody is only going to play 5 double round robins as opposed to the full league double round robin. So for Kansas State, we'll get through them first because I've got the least amount of beef with them. Their home games include Baylor, BYU, UCF. They get Iowa State, KU, of course, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, TCU, West Virginia. All those teams are going to play at Bramlage Coliseum. So in total, that will be 9 home games. Again, the same number it's been. They will go to BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, Iowa State, KU, Oklahoma State, Texas, Texas Tech, West Virginia. The teams that they will face twice, so home and away, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, KU, Iowa State, and who am I missing?
BYU.
BYU. Thank you, Dan. Those are the games, the 2-game series they'll play.
The home and homes.
It looks fine to me. You get UCF at home. That's nice. Don't have to make that long trip. So that's definitely a nice thing. Although UCF's going to be really bad. So that's probably one you don't mind making the long trip for. You get to play Iowa State twice, old MVIAA, the original Big 8. Get that rivalry still there. Obviously, KU and K-State are going to play twice. You do get to play Oklahoma in basketball. That's nice.
No last trip to Norman.
Nope.
No last chance to boo Texas at Bramlage.
That's a bummer. Would have loved that. Really wish OU and Texas had just played everyone on the road all year.
They should have been made to play everyone on the road. They should have played 18 road games.
Yeah, they really should have. So that's Kansas State's group of games. I don't really have any beef with that, I don't think. I think it's fine.
I guess, and I'll expand more. I'm going to hold this thought. I'm going to expand more on it when we get through KU's, because I know your beef is with how Kansas is scheduled here.
So KU's schedule, I will be honest here, the KU social team made theirs a little bit easier to parse through some of these. So the games KU gets home and away. So they will play 2 games against Baylor, Houston, K-State, Oklahoma State. And want to make sure this is clear because we had to clear this up in the office earlier today. The Houston game in Mexico, that's not until 2024-25. That's a whole year away.
Right.
So this will be games in Houston and in Lawrence. The games only at home, only at Allen Fieldhouse this year, will include BYU, Cincinnati, TCU, Texas. That's a pretty good home slate, honestly. You don't have to go to Austin. That's a good thing. You get TCU, don't have to go to Schollmeyer Arena. I know TCU blew out KU at Allen Fieldhouse last year, but generally, TCU is pretty tough to play at home. That's going to be a good team this year. I'm pretty content with that. The away games, away only. You go to West Virginia. That's tough. To Texas Tech. That's tough. To Iowa State and to UCF. And I've already seen some UCF fans across the internet say, well, I hope KU enjoys its home game in Florida. That's not going to go very well for us. So all in all, if you take the entire schedule as one big unit, I think it's actually pretty good for KU. I think it's fairly favorable. Yeah, going to Tech and to West Virginia, that's going to be tough. But a road game at UCF, they're going to be the worst team in the league. You get TCU in Texas only at home. You play Baylor twice. That's awesome. That's been a good rivalry. Play Houston twice. That's going to be phenomenal basketball. Obviously, you're going to play K-State twice. Here is my biggest beef with any of the scheduling anywhere in the conference. Why is KU not playing Iowa State twice? That has been one of the most juiced up series, some of the best games in the conference over the last decade. And I know Iowa State is better now after a couple down years. They're maybe not quite as fearsome as they were during, the peak Hoiberg era or even the first year of Steve Prohm. But they've been in the same conference for 115 years. I saw Travis Hines, who we've had on the show before, who covers Iowa State. He tweeted out, this will be the first time that Iowa State has not played in Lawrence in a basketball season since 1921.
Wow.
That's 100, soon to be 3 years. And that's going away. I hate that. I despise that. We are down to now 4 teams, and it's about to be 3 when Oklahoma leaves. 3 true, real, very beginning of the conference teams left. It's KU, it's K-State, it's Iowa State. Because Oklahoma was around for a little bit in the 20s, then left and come back to the late 50s. Oklahoma is leaving. Tech came with the Southwest Conference. Same with Baylor, same with Texas, same with TCU much later. Colorado might come eventually, but they're not there right now. You keep the few traditions you have left in place. Don't throw those away. This has been a great rivalry. They've been great games, and I'm sure the environment at Hilton Coliseum is going to be crazy when KU goes up there in January or February or whenever they head up there for that game. It'll be absolutely nuts in Ames. But those games are great at Allen Fieldhouse too. And this isn't just me complaining that, I want another game at Allen Fieldhouse. I'd feel the same way if it was just Iowa State in Lawrence and KU wasn't going to Ames.
It does feel like because if you're protecting rivalries, take this from the Kansas perspective first. If you're protecting rivalries for this one-shot 14-game season that you're going to have a home and home, no questions asked. The first one you protect is obviously Kansas State.
Right.
But second after that would feel like Iowa State, I think.
I would
think
say
you
so.
would prioritize that over Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, even though obviously there's a lot of history with Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
I think you prioritize that over Baylor and Houston, too.
I would.
And so it just makes me think that with regards to the 5 home and homes that every team gets in the league, I really think there was only one that was intentional for each team. Because how else do you explain Kansas State in it with BYU, the geographic outlier to the west, and West Virginia, the geographic outlier to the northeast anyhow? I don't know if they're further east. I would have to look at a map, see if they are actually further east than UCF. I don't think they are.
I think UCF is the furthest east.
I think you're right. Yeah. But they're to the northeast, certainly they're the geographic outlier in the conference. So while I am disappointed because I think that is a good set of home and homes every year, Kansas, Ohio State always delivers the goods in a way that there aren't many other conference matchups that do that. Obviously Bedlam and Texas, Oklahoma is always good, and KU, K-State's usually pretty excellent. Even when K-State isn't good, they get up for that game. I feel like the rest of it was very scattershot and not done necessarily with anything other than one protected rivalry in mind. Because moving forward, like you mentioned, the Mexico game for Houston and Kansas is next year. They're not going to play a home and home in conference if they're playing a non-conference exhibition.
Right.
Not an exhibition, but they're playing a non-conference game. They're not going to be a home and home next year.
Yeah, you're not playing the same team 3 times.
And if you're down to 12 and you want to keep, what would it be, 18 conference games, then you play 11 and 7. So there would be 4 teams you wouldn't play home and homes against. And I would think that there would be then a little bit more leeway for, particularly if that's going to be how the league looks for the long haul, you would say, okay, we're going to protect Kansas State, Kansas, but we're going to try and do our best to protect as many of those Big 8 heritage matchups as we can with Oklahoma State and with Iowa State. We want those schools to play home and home as often as possible. It will not work out that way every year. You'll have to cycle this because that's what happens when you don't play a round robin. But you should have Kansas playing Iowa State, and for that matter, Kansas State playing Iowa State twice a year as often as you possibly can.
And I think this becomes a little bit easier with 12 than 14. 12 is a little bit more of a malleable number than 14 is. But Brett Yormark has also made it very clear he wants 14 teams. So I don't think 12 would be a permanent number anyway. I just feel like you need to keep the history together as much as you can. And why for football, I feel the same way. And I feel like the quote-unquote pod scheduling is the best way to handle it. Like with the teams, assuming no new additions, when you're saying, all right, who should play the same team every single year? No doubt. Kansas should play K-State and Iowa State every single year. K-State should play KU and Iowa State. All 3 of those schools, I think, would feel that exact way. Because even if Iowa State has played other really good games against other teams in the league, the teams that they have the most history with and the most connection to are KU and K-State.
Yeah.
And K-State would certainly feel the same way about those other 2. That bothers me, that you have an opportunity to keep some sort of tradition in an era of college sports where we're throwing so much of it away, except for one-offs, one-off, they are doing the backyard brawl on a year-to-year contract kind of thing now, or the occasional KU versus Mizzou thing. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We have a chance to keep a good tradition, something that's been awesome for a long time. No, we're not going to keep it. That just sucks. And I wish we kept more of that. Because I'm looking around the rest of the league. I'm looking at the Big 12's release right now. I don't see anyone else that really is missing something that is so obvious like that. Come on.
At the same time, though, like we said, I mean, you're going to have to go away from the round robin eventually.
Right.
And so there is going to come a time where Kansas doesn't make the trip to Hilton, or Kansas State doesn't get to host Iowa State. And that just happens for Kansas State, or for Kansas hosting Iowa State. That just so happens to be this year. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen eventually. It's just the way it goes when you don't play a round robin schedule.
I think I would just prefer everybody had like 2 protected rivalries.
I'd even go with 3. I'd say say why not do 3? Because then you can preserve the 4 original like big 7 teams, right? The big 8 teams, and they play each other every year.
Yeah, I think I'd be all right with that. We've got 1 hour left of 580 Sports Talk. We'll lead it off with our headlines after the news.
Introduce
1 hour to go on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock today, following a Royals loss to the Detroit Tigers this afternoon. We appreciate you hopping on with us following that game and spending this entire edition of 580 Sports Talk with us. If you want to be involved in the show, hit us up on the text line. You know the number, 785-272-9429. And our YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. You can watch the show while listening along. That's right, video live stream on YouTube every single day. And the comment section is open as well if you want to chime in. Mark in the YouTube comment section says that he agrees not playing the KU Iowa State rivalry twice in basketball, quote, blows. And I agree. Good word for it. It does blow. I wish they were playing twice in basketball coming up this year. We've got a bunch more in regard to our 580 Sports Talk headlines to get to here in just a few moments. We'll also get to a new NIL bill proposed by a trio of senators working across party lines, a bipartisan effort to put together an NIL bill in Congress. Dan and I are not fans of it, but we'll give you the facts and let you make your own decision. We've made ours, but we'll let you make yours as well. Plus, the TBT, the basketball tournament, got underway yesterday. KU's alumni team won a thriller over We Are D3. You can guess what their shtick is. The K-State alumni and the Wichita State alumni, they play today, both down in Wichita as well. Are we in or out on TBT? We'll talk about that in a little bit, plus your texts and your comments on YouTube. But let's get into it with our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. And on the day in which Daniel Snyder's sale of the Washington Commanders to the Josh Harris group, which also, by the way, includes Magic Johnson, became official. It was passed by the entire ownership group. There's a couple of legal things they have to figure out, but for all intents and purposes, the sale is done. We found out via the public reporting from the Green Bay Packers, because since they are publicly owned, including by yours truly, I am an NFL owner, people forget that, they must report their revenue for the year. That is how we, year by year, find out how much revenue is distributed to the teams all across the league, what sort of money they make from the TV contracts, revenue sharing, et cetera, et cetera. So according to their public filing, the Green Bay Packers announced that they received $374.4 million in national revenue from the NFL last season. So again, that includes the TV contracts, that includes revenue sharing, jersey sales, other merchandise, the things that are shared by the league, payments from stadiums that are built or relocation, things like that, that goes into national revenue. So if you assume that every team gets the same amount of money in that regard, and you should, because the things that are unequal are determined by the teams, that's not as public, multiply that by 32 for all 32 teams in the NFL, and you get a whopping $11.98 billion distributed per team in the NFL for 2022. That is nearly $12 billion per team, and that is up over $800 million. Last year's financial reporting indicated that each team got $11.1 billion. This year, $11.98 billion. That is a lot of money. And we don't get this in the NFL quite as much because there is a salary cap and because you have a minimum amount you have to spend and you have a maximum amount you are allowed to spend against the cap. So it's not quite like baseball where you say, hey, Phil Castellini of the Reds, if he wanted to spend more money, he could. He chooses not to. Or John Fisher of the A's for sure. Or, I don't know, John Sherman of the Kansas City Royals. They could spend more money. They just choose not to. And there are teams like the Dodgers who do spend money, or the Padres or the Mets with Steve Cohen who say, no, we will spend the money. It doesn't always work. The Padres and Mets are huge disappointments, but still, you can spend what you want. It's not quite the same in the NFL, but if you ever get to a point where you say, dang, I wish my team had spent the money to do that, but we just can't, wrong. They can. The league distributes to every team $12 billion a year. They can afford whatever they want. And by the by, that includes a stadium. $12 billion. That is unbelievable. And again, every team also makes more money because they've got parking and concessions, and the Cowboys, merchandise sales to the Cowboys, that is all in-house. They're the only team in the league that handles their own merchandise sales, which is wild that they allowed that to happen.
Yeah, Jerry Jones fought for that in the mid-90s, and it has stayed in place.
Yeah.
It's how, like, for years, the Cowboys had their own, like, official apparel partner.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Apex.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Remember Apex?
Yeah, Apex stuff rules.
I had a Rockies Apex jacket.
Yeah, it's sick. I try to find Apex, Starter, and Logo Athletic. I try to find those brands on like Etsy and eBay.
Logo Athletic had those 6 shark fin hats.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Yeah, I had a Packers one when I was a kid.
I've got one. It's not the shark fin, but it's the one that has kind of the diamonds on the side, like the thin diamonds. I've got a Georgia Tech one, which is sick. Yeah, bring those back. We're bringing out
we used to be a country.
We see teams bring out throwback jerseys all the time. I want throwback merch. I will spend so much money at your pro shop if you bring back those things in an official capacity. So please do it. Anyway, your favorite NFL team got $12 billion from the league this year.
That's a lot.
Whoever your favorite team is, that's what they got. So never, ever, ever listen when a team tells you, well, we would love to, but we can't. We don't have the money for that. You got $12 billion. And not every single one of those dollars is reinvested into, like, charity, okay? Like, they've got the money to do this stuff.
You know how much $12 billion is? That's 12 times $1 billion.
Yeah.
You know how much $1 billion is? It's 1,000 times $1 million.
And $1 million would change my life forever right now.
Yes.
It really is hard to fathom. That's how much every team is making from NFL distribution this year.
So let's go ahead and shift gears to our next headline. This bit of news has not yet been made official, and when it is, we'll certainly dig into all of the details of it. And it is not entirely unexpected news, but it's coming down the pike. Jerome Tang's going to get a contract extension from Kansas State. Multiple sources telling College Hoops today that the two sides are close on a contract extension. There's no timetable on an official announcement. Obviously a no-brainer, given Tang's success in his first year as head coach of the Wildcats, in which he led them to an Elite Eight. But again, we don't have official word on what the parameters, what the dollars are going to look like. So we'll keep an eye on this story, and we may have something to report tomorrow. We may have something to report after the weekend, but it appears that the two sides are nearing the finish line. Jerome Tang and Kansas State on a, I would imagine, lucrative contract extension.
Yeah, I would think so. And if you're a K-State fan, you're hoping that this happens every couple of years, because that means they keep winning, and that means K-State keeps spending to make sure that he stays around. That is a good thing. You want this. And I'm really not surprised they're working out a new long-term deal with Tang. And a lot of this is some of it bonus, and more so than the years on the contract, the amount in the buyout going up is really what's important here, because you don't want, let's say John Shire fails at Duke and they decide to go outside of the brotherhood. You don't want Duke and that Nike money coming for your Nike money and what K-State's got. Or North Carolina decides they want to go outside the family and Hubert Davis doesn't work out and they want someone else. Let's try Jerome Tang. Or Kentucky when they finally get rid of Cal, someone like that. Make sure that buyout is big. Make sure that he is comfortable, that he is happy, that his assistants are taken care of and he doesn't leave. This is a no-brainer, though. And good for K-State. I'm happy for K-State that they've got a guy who, when you hear we've extended our head basketball coach, everybody doesn't groan, they celebrate. Because fair or not to Bruce Weber, the last time he got a contract extension, and frankly, the first time he got a contract extension, there was a lot of, really? I mean, I guess. Okay. But this is great. We're locked and loaded, ready to go. If you can get a contract extension done after 1 year, that means your coach is winning and winning a lot. And that's really good. Happy for him. That's a lot of contract extensions for local coaches in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it is.
Lance Leipold, contract extension this year. Chris Kleiman this year. Jerome Tang this year. Bill Self's now the one who's behind. You got to go all the way back to spring of 21 to get Bill Self's last contract extension when he got his lifetime deal. That is so cool. That is great. And again, another piece of information, piece of data, if you will, to indicate how strong the athletic departments of both KU and K-State are right now. That is awesome. Let's stick with college athletics for this one. I think this is dumb. I'm going to preview this headline for you. I think this is dumb. The Colonial Athletic Association, the CAA, is changing its name. It's functionally not changing anything. It's going to be the same teams, the same part of the country, all of that, but they are changing their name from the Colonial Athletic Association to the Coastal Athletic Association. They're even keeping the same acronym. They've decided, hey, we want this to more reflect where we are, update the name a little bit. This is from their press release on the matter. New members, a new geographic footprint, new vision, long-standing commitments to excellence, and a new name. The Colonial Athletic Association has changed its name to the Coastal Athletic Association. The league, still the CAA, will continue to use the same conference logo, but it reflects recent expansion with members spanning from Massachusetts to South Carolina. That is a really far distance, by the way.
Yeah, it's a massive conference.
That's not like a quick jaunt. From the commissioner of the league, Joe D'Antonio, the conference's new name represents a culmination of its efforts over the past 3 years to expand its membership, solidify its geographic footprint, and affirm its long-standing mission through a new vision statement, which emphasizes that CAA institutions work together to advance nationally competitive collegiate athletic programs, yada, yada. Okay, you get it. You've read press releases before. Here's why I think this is very dumb. When you think college football, there are two things that come to mind before I think of the Coastal Athletic Association. I think one of an upstart mid-major FBS program, Coastal Carolina, who most often is just referred to as Coastal. Like during a game, touchdown Coastal, first down for Coastal, the Coastal defense. It's the shorthand of the name. That's what everybody thinks of first, is Coastal Carolina football or Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. So that already, you're not the most commonly named Coastal. And then I think of the ACC Coastal Division,
which was a frequent punchline over the course of its lifespan.
Yes.
Until the ACC dropped divisions, the running gag in the Coastal was they had a new winner every year and they were never good.
No, they went 8-5 and were nothing special. So you're already behind the curve in that regard, and it's not unique. You went from a unique name to a not unique name. That's bad. That's not good. It's not quite as egregious, but it makes me think of when the Kansas City NWSL team became the Kansas City Current, which they've been successful. Their brand is awesome. They've got an incredible fan base. They're going to have the only women's soccer specific stadium in the country.
Purpose built, yeah.
They're buying more land around it to essentially make like Currentville, like to have bigger training grounds and all that. It's awesome. You know what happens when you search KC current roster? You get the Chiefs. We live in an era where you need to be like web focused. You need to have an eye on and a piece of your brain on, well, how are people going to find us? When people go on the internet to look us up, what are they going to find? Maybe it's a little bit different now because they've got sort of a footing. But when they first announced the name, and okay, it has updated now. You do get the soccer team if you search KC current roster. But that was the first thing. You got the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That shouldn't work like that. When you think coastal football, what are you going to think, Dan? Are you going to think of Elon and Hofstra and Monmouth? Or are you going to think of those dudes with mullets and jorts who played BYU in that sick game a few years ago?
That's a good point.
It's not good branding. And I know this isn't a huge deal for us because it's like an FCS conference on the East Coast, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why you would do this.
There are a lot of schools in the CAA.
A lot
of schools, because they have a football league that is distinct from their operation in other sports. There are schools that play CAA football that are in other leagues for basketball. Schools like Albany and Maine and New Hampshire and Villanova and Rhode Island and Richmond, to be specific. Those schools all in different leagues in basketball, as you're certainly aware, but they play football in the CAA. Here's the other problem that the CAA has. Google CAA.
Oh, you get the agency, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
You got to specify CAA conference if that's what you're looking for. You Google CAA, your first hit is a creative artists agency. They have 1,800 employees. They represent a lot of really famous people in Hollywood and in sports. That is your first hit for the CAA. Your second hit is the College Art Association. Your third hit is the Wikipedia page for the Creative Artists Agency. And then you get to the Coastal Athletic Association. So they really should have just torn their branding up and started brand new with something that is a little more SEO friendly. And instead, they are going to call to mind the ACC Coastal.
Vance on YouTube says, wait, weren't those the original 13 states, that footprint we were talking about? In other words, the colonial states? Yeah, it was unique. It was different. You could search colonial sports, and that's what you would get. You're not getting like polo. You're getting the Colonial Athletic Association.
We do have a texter who wonders from the 785 if colonial was no longer acceptable politically. Many folks associate the term with negative actions by governments in the past. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny that had anything to do with it. Certainly, some of their member schools now are not in what were the original 13 colonies. So maybe it was just antiquated in that way. Like, I understand there were valid reasons for this league to change its branding, but they didn't go far enough.
Yeah,
it feels like a half measure.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought from the text line, because the concept of being a colonialist is not nearly as positive in the American lexicon as it once was. Like, George Washington changed their name. They are no longer.
Yeah, they're no longer the Colonials.
The Colonials.
Yeah. What are they now? Like the
Revolutionaries.
Yes, the Revs.
Yeah, which is fine. That's also the nickname of a soccer team, though.
Now they're just the Revolution.
Yeah, they still call them the Revs, though, don't they?
Yes, they do.
I thought so. Yeah, I don't know. I figure you just stick with something unique. I don't get it, but so be it. I guess I am not paid to come up with these things, and I'm frankly wish I was paid that salary, because I would be making a whole lot more money.
Yes.
Because they pay people tons and tons and tons of thousands of dollars to come up with this stuff.
I could certainly give them better branding advice. Like, number one, the CAA acronym, it's not really working overtime for you, because it's not what people think about when they hear CAA.
No.
Not even in the world of sports. Like, it'd be one thing if CAA just represented like actors.
Right.
But no, it represents athletes.
Tons of athletes, tons of very high profile athletes.
Yeah.
Like, there was a whole scandal that pretty much only existed on social media. There was a whole scandal about the number 1 overall pick in this year's NFL draft, because CAA represents Bryce Young and also Adam Schefter. So people got all up in arms that Schefter was tweeting for months that Bryce Young was no doubt the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, realistically, he was always going to be the number 1 pick, but people like to get up in arms about it.
Next headline for me, let's fill you in on what happened while you were sleeping, or maybe going about your morning, in a couple of sporting events happening across both ponds. We'll look across the Atlantic Ocean first to the playing of the 151st Open Championship of Golf, where after day one, I said yesterday, typically, and in recent years, this has definitely been the case, winners of the British Open don't come out of nowhere, but first round leaders at majors are always coming out of nowhere. And that is certainly the case. We have a 3-way tie at the top of the leaderboard. Tommy Fleetwood's not out of nowhere. He's just never won an American PGA Tour event. And I guess this isn't a PGA Tour event either, but he's never won a major. And he shot a 66 today to share the lead at Royal Liverpool with Argentine Emiliano Grillo and South African amateur Christo Lamprecht, who is 6 feet 8 inches tall.
Watching the clips of him trying to hit out of the bunker or just watching him drive. It's incredible. Like his body's not made for golf.
Right. Yeah. It is very much this thing isn't made for you, but he presses on. He won the British Amateur last year. Like he's legitimately excellent and at golf. And he shot a 66 today. So did Fleetwood. So did Griot. Those are your leaders. One shot back. The left-hander, Brian Harmon, along with Frenchman Antoine Rosner and Spaniard Adrian, and I'm going to get this last name wrong, and I apologize, Otegi. Those are the group at 4 under in a 3-way tie for 4th. In a tie for 7th at 3 under par, the U.S. Open champion Wyndham Clark, former British Open champion Stuart Sink, and others that include the Swede Alex Noren, Max Homa, Michael Stewart, and Shubhankar Sharma, making his first Open Championship start, 26-year-old from India. How about guys you've heard of? Jordan Spieth might be the top name on that particular list. He shot a 269 today to sit in a tie for 13th. Big group at 1 under par includes Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama, Patrick Cantlay, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Reed, and Scotty Scheffler. Rory McIlroy somehow got up and down out of a 18th hole pot bunker to par the 18th hole and finish at even par 71. He's in a tie for 32nd. Tyrrell Hatton and others, a large list of others, tied for 32nd at even par. Further down the leaderboard, you can find the defending Open champion Cameron Smith at +1. You can find Topeka, Kansas's professional sports franchise, Gary Woodland, I think sitting just off the cut at +2, shot a 73 today. Had some good company at +2. A lot of really good players are 2 over par. The group at +3 includes Dustin Johnson, Justin Rose, and John Rahm. Justin Thomas shot an 82. That's a 2-time major champion. He has shot over 80 in each of his last 2 rounds at major tournaments. That's not good. That's a look at what's going on at the Open Championship. What about day 1 of the Women's World Cup? A stunner to start the tournament at 2 a.m. our time as New Zealand defeated Norway, one of only 4 countries to have ever won the Women's World Cup. New Zealand at home scores their first ever Women's World Cup victory. They beat the Norwegians 1-0. Australia also playing at home with a 1-0 win over Ireland. Action tonight, 9:30 p.m. kickoff for this one. Canada taking on Nigeria. Then at midnight Central Time, you've got the Philippines and Switzerland. At 2:30 a.m. Central Time, Spain and Costa Rica.
This is not pertaining to the Women's World Cup. By the way, I've got the U.S. winning too, and I think they're going to stomp Vietnam.
Oh, man, they're going to violate the Geneva Convention.
Yeah. There are 32 teams in the World Cup, right?
Yes, this is the first Women's World Cup with 32 teams in it.
I believe Vietnam is ranked 32nd.
I think you're right.
Of the 32 teams. They play the U.S., who is ranked number 1.
Yes.
And I'm all in on the U.S. winning this. This is from a non-women's World Cup soccer event. I think it's the Champions League. Or it might be some other kind of Champions League. Did you see the result between a team from the Faroe Islands beating the champions of the Hungarian League?
Yes, it's Champions League qualifying.
Oh, qualifying for the Champions League.
Yes, it is Champions League qualifying. The champions of Hungary lost the champions of the Faroe Islands. Yes.
Which has a population, or the town that the team is in from the Faroe Islands has 5,000 people. Their city, or their stadium, fits 2,500. They can fit half the city's population in their stadium, and they just beat the champions of of a full-fledged large continental European country, which I don't really know anything about it. All I read was that it was very embarrassing for Hungary. They had a scoreless tie, a draw in their first game.
Play a 2-legged tie. You advance on aggregate. And the first game was 0-0. Then 3-0 to the Faroe Island champions.
I couldn't believe that.
The champions from the Faroe Islands, who you might imagine can't afford to buy or develop talent in a way that other much richer and more populated countries typically can.
Just bigger countries.
No, massive upset. It'll be fun to see if they can continue on. It would be a hoot to see like Manchester City have to play at the Faroe Islands in the group stages.
Is this a bigger deal than when that team from the unrecognized territory beat, who did they beat? Barcelona? Madrid?
It was Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Sheriff
Sheriff.
Tiraspol. Yeah.
Yeah, they exist in a territory that is not recognized by the UN.
Yeah, and are essentially owned by gangsters. It's a much nicer story. I'll just say that.
Okay, that's fair. That's what I was
a much cuddlier underdog.
All right, we'll take that. Shout
Yeah.
out to the Faroe Islands. Big win for my boys, the Farovians. I don't know what they're actually called.
The club has a name, but I'm not coming up with it right now.
Yeah,
I think it's like Key or something. K-I.
Yes, I did see that. I mean, I don't know anything about this team other than I know that the Faroe Islands are very small. So good for them. This has been Talking Soccer. And that'll do it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. On the other side of this break, a trio of senators working across the aisle have come up with the latest NIL bill proposal. We're not fans of it. We'll give you the facts, let you make your own decision coming up after this on 580 Sports Talk.
What an advantage you will have when you bid your next contract.
Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Thanks for joining us. If you know anything about the politics of Senators Jerry Moran, he being from Kansas, Richard Blumenthal, and Cory Booker from, if I'm not mistaken, Connecticut and New Jersey, respectively?
Yes, if you have them in the right order. Blumenthal, Connecticut, Booker, New Jersey. Yeah.
You will know that they don't have a lot in common in terms of their political philosophies. Different sides of the aisle, different parties, respectively. But they have come together to co-author the latest of several dozen bills that have been proposed in the Senate or the House regarding regulation of NIL, name, image, and likeness rights in college athletics. These bills largely have been written by people who don't really understand what goes on in college sports and how college sports work. Even people who coached in college football don't really know how they work. See a certain senator from the state of Alabama. And this bill is attempting to establish rules about draft eligibility and scholarships and transparency, etc. So here is, according to the writing of Dan Murphy from ESPN, here are some of the broad points in this most recent bill that is going to go before the Senate. They will, in the healthcare section, establish a medical trust fund, for sports-related injuries. Athletic departments that generate at least $20 million annually would be required to cover out-of-pocket medical expenses for athletes for 2 years after they finish playing. Athletic departments that generate at least $50 million would have to do so for 4 years and provide health care coverage for athletes while playing. Then there's a draft eligibility part. All college athletes can enter drafts for professional leagues without losing eligibility if they decide to return to school within 7 days of the draft ending.
Yeah, I kind of like that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a healthy debate to be had about that. Sure, there's a lot of positives to that. I think the NBA and college basketball allowing guys to enter the draft process and back out has been great for everyone.
For
really.
college basketball, for first and foremost.
Yes, absolutely. Colleges would have to guarantee that athletes could keep scholarships until they finish their undergraduate degree, as long as they remain in good academic standing and do not transfer. Schools would not be allowed to discourage athletes from choosing particular academic majors and would be required to provide at least 15 hours of financial literacy and life skills training that could count as college credits. And schools would be required to report annually on their athletics revenue expenses, how much money their coaches make, how much time athletes spend on their sports, academic outcomes, and the average value and total number of endorsement contracts that athletes sign. The bill would make sure that specific contract details for endorsement deals were not made public or subject to public records requests. So those are some of the broader points about this. But as you pointed out as well, Dan, this would essentially give the NCAA subpoena power.
Yeah, so it would form, in effect, a non-government operated corporation with the power to enforce these reforms and settle disputes, certify agents, and they would also be granted subpoena power to monitor whether all parties were obeying the law, essentially. I don't know about you folks listening, but given what you know about the NCAA and how it enforces what it chooses to enforce and how it has gone about doing that for pretty much its entire existence, that a governing body you want to give subpoena power to? Because I can't say that I feel like it is. I think that's where we're going a bit too far. And I think the reason that this may not have much staying power to it, this very proposal, is because I think there are people in the NCAA who feel like this doesn't go far enough. There's no antitrust exemption proposed here. The NCAA folks are open. They want an antitrust exemption, and not a big one, but enough of one to keep them from getting sued. And they also want a full declaration that college athletes aren't employees. Because
which this bill intentionally does not touch.
Yes, this bill doesn't do that. So let me say that there are some things that I think the bill gets right. That is, number one, do not get to the point where we codify in the law that that college athletes should not be deemed employees of their schools. That's not something that I think needs to be etched into law. But that's what the NCAA is looking for. And this goes back to, this is why they hired Charlie Baker to be their new president.
Exactly.
Because this is his background. His background is not college athletics. It's not college administration. It's not being in an athletic department. It's lobbying. It's politics. That's Charlie Baker's background. That's where he's coming from as the new president of the NCAA. And this is what he's trying to do. He is trying to make sure that something comes out of Capitol Hill that is NCAA friendly, that is bureaucracy friendly to the NCAA.
I have a couple earnest questions about this. Number one, and we've already touched on this a little bit. Why would you want to give the NCAA more power? Like, honestly, if you are just a regular person, a regular college sports fan, anyone who knows anything about the NCAA, and a member of the United States Congress who has been a part of hearings and trials and knows about this to an intimate level, well, you would hope. Why would you want the NCAA to have more power? Why would you want the people who run the NCAA to have more power? That's my first true, honest question, because that, to me, is a bad idea. That is a very bad idea, and I think we have made our opinions on how the NCAA is run made very clear over time. So that's question number one. Here's my second question as it pertains to NIL legislation. And really, I guess this is a two-parter. Number one, it is odd to me, and I don't understand why a guy like Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, would say something like this. Quote, congressional action is the only way to provide a national uniform standard for name, image, and likeness activity and to draw the lines around the boundaries that do not become simply pay for play. One, why are you trying to get the government more involved with college sports? I think that is a very dangerous game to be playing. And I'm not trying to be Mr. Anarchist here. I just think that is not to use the logical fallacy, but that is a slippery slope you are getting involved in. Because if they're getting involved in this, what else are they going to get involved in? And I do not think that is necessarily a good thing. And here's my other question just in general. Why do we need national uniform standards for this? Seriously, like we hear all the time about, this is the Wild West and things are out of control and what are we going to do? Out of curiosity, in college football, has the power structure changed?
No.
Because as far as I'm aware,
Alabama and Georgia still get all the good players. Ohio State gets all the good players out of the Midwest. And if they don't go there, they go to Michigan. Like the
players don't go to Georgia or Alabama, go to LSU.
Yeah, like the 5-star kids are still going where the 5-star kids go. The good teams are still good. The recruiting, the top recruiting classes in the country still go to the schools that the top recruiting classes in the country were already signing to. Like nothing has changed about the power structure of college athletics.
And being good at football is still the ultimate determinant of whether or not you can contend for championships. You know what a great example of this is? So many jokes last season about all the Raising Cane's NIL deals that players at Texas A&M got. Who was it who made a joke about how maybe if you had picked a place to go play football instead of a Raising Cane's contract, you'd be winning this season? I can't remember what player said that. Texas A&M had all that NIL money. They were shelling out to everybody. They sucked. They were garbage. They were a 5-win team. They were no fun. They were no good. They were a laughingstock last season, which is kind of what Texas A&M has been for a long time to some people. Like the power structure has not changed at all. The trends of where college football was going that's where they're still going. And, Alabama's got all this money. Georgia's got all this money. Hey, you know what they had before NIL rights became a thing? All the money and all the recruits. Always. Let's go to college basketball. Mm-hmm. KU, I've talked about this before. I know KU's got a very hefty NIL fund. Their collective has been very successful. Newsflash, you know who got really good recruits before, 2021? Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, the same programs that have these strong Kentucky, these strong collectives now. They're still getting the good players. Nothing has changed except this is all in the public, and now it's harder for coaches and programs to negatively recruit.
There's this fantasy that there's ever going to be a level playing field, that magically you're going to have access to the same recruits that the schools that have been beating you for those recruits for tens and tens of years, decades, have been beating you for. That it should be, in fact, a level playing field. That's everybody's a capitalist till it comes to college football. Then it's all, we got to have a level playing field. It's got to be fair. People get real socialist about their college sports. You have to make sure, if the quarterback gets a big NIL deal, what about the 4th-string long snapper? They got to give them the same thing. Everybody gets real socialist when it comes to their college football or their college basketball.
Because that's not how, your job works.
It's not how the world works, but it's how we want college sports to work? Nah, man, it's not. That's not how it works. The schools with resources are always going to be better than the schools with less resources. And now there's just a different method through which to funnel those resources. And we talk about it being, it's the wild, wild west. We got to have some guardrails on this. What people are really saying is we're giving these kids too much money. We can't give these kids so much money. We had no idea it was going to get like this. Nah, man, we got to keep them a little broke. We got to keep them a little bit broke, because if we don't, they're liable to go crazy on us.
Which I really just don't get. So what? So what? And it's the same academically, though, too. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No.
It's the same academically. Duke has a lot of money. The Duke endowment is gigantic. You know what Duke is? An incredible academic institution. Incredible. Okay? And you go to places where you can get, if you can get in, the best education. If you want to be a doctor, you know where you're going to go? Duke or Harvard or Stanford or somewhere like that. Places that have resources and great professors and teachers and money and all that kind of thing. I went to KU because I wanted to go to a good journalism school and I wanted to go out of state. I wasn't going to pick Purdue because I didn't want to be that close to home, and they're an engineering focused school. I wanted to go somewhere else. Like that's what you do. So why is it different? So that's why it is an honest question. And I would love for, Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut to answer the question, why do we need this? Greg Sankey, why do we need a national standard for this? And I'm being completely genuine. Can I get a good answer for why this has to be nationally standardized?
The bottom line is this. For years and years, the administrators, the coaches, the universities, those people are able to take 100% of the profits, of the money, the revenue generated by their athletic departments. 100% of the profits, 100% of the proceeds going to the athletic directors, going to the coaches, going to the chancellors, going to the university presidents. And now with NIL, it's a little taste. It's a little bit of over, instead of it being under the table, it's a little bit of over the table acknowledgement that, hey, you college athletes, your labor, it's worth something. And the next logical step is they get a share of the revenue that they generate for their universities, for their athletic departments. And that is what's going to happen over the dead bodies of these conference commissioners, of these university presidents, of these athletic directors, because any more that the athletes get is a little bit less for them. And that's what they can't abide by. At the end of the day, this has always been about keeping the athletes broke.
Which is just to a man, on the very basic level, I just don't get it. Like, that doesn't affect me. It's just a regular Joe. That does not affect me. Why am I supposed to care about that? Let's get to a break. On the other side of this, you in or out on the TBT? We'll banter about that after this on 580 Sports Talk.
When
The basketball tournament, that is what it's called, is back. 10th year of TBT. I didn't even remember it started all the way back in 2014.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
64 teams. It's a $1 million winner-take-all prize. And both KU and K-State have alumni teams. Wichita State does too. Wichita State's been in it, I think, every year or almost every year. K-State has for most of the years as well. KU had an alumni team in 2019. They really were not good. Perry Ellis tore his ACL in their one game. They lost in the first round. Not great. The KU Collective, the Mash Street Collective, has put together a team for this year. You've got Thomas Robinson, who had the game winner last night in their win over the D3 alums. You have Tyshawn Taylor, who's been hurt. Dietrich Lawson, who's been hurt. Jamari Traylor, LeGerald Vick. A lot of guys who've played for KU in recent years who are on this team. I thought it was not a very well played game overall last night that KU played in, the KU alums played in, but it had drama. It had an exciting ending. There's no doubt about that. K-State's team plays tonight. Wichita State's team plays tonight. You in or out on the TBT?
I'm half in, half out.
Okay.
Like, I think the thing that the TBT finally hit on was they were able to find a place that really got behind it and really created a bit of an atmosphere for it, so it didn't just feel like an open run with a bunch of guys who were obviously evidently good basketball players, but not good enough to play at the highest level of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And they found that in Wichita. They found that at Charles Koch Arena. And they found that and I could have told you from the very beginning, hey, if they get a Wichita State alumni team in this thing, they're going to pop off at Charles Koch Arena, because they are the major league team in Wichita, Kansas. And I say that with admiration. I say that with love. Wichitans love anything Shocker basketball. So it's not a surprise that they rally behind the Aftershocks, the alumni team. And the farther that team goes, the better it is for this tournament, the better it is for the crowds, and getting the other Kansas alumni teams down there too. I confess, I didn't watch last night, but how was the crowd for the KU? How was the KU following there last night?
Crowd was great. I saw a tweet. I believe this was Sully Engels from Cake TV down there, who said that the Roundhouse was about half full, all crimson and blue. And for a midsummer, not really affiliated basketball tournament, that's a pretty good crowd.
Yeah.
That's a good turnout. I assume tonight's games will have an awesome crowd as well. You get the KU alums and the Mizzou alums later this week. That's going to be incredible.
So it's unique. It's different when there's a hook, when there's a good atmosphere. Obviously, the Elam ending is definitely a hook, as well as being something that is unique. You've got my interest. Like, you piqued my interest a little bit, but the other half of the games are in Lubbock, Texas, and it's deader than Elvis in the United Supermarkets Arena for like the Arkansas alumni team and the North Texas alumni team you were watching the other day. And man, when you don't have an atmosphere and you don't have like a hook, then all you got is bad basketball. And I'm out on bad basketball.
Yeah, today during the afternoon, we were watching passively the Colorado State alums and the Arkansas alums. The Arkansas alums didn't even have a cool name. They were just Team Arkansas. Like, come on with something better than that. But it was all players like from before Arkansas got really good again. And Colorado State hasn't really been all that great in recent memory anyway. So it just there wasn't any zip to it. But, you know, the KU team, you've got players you know. The K-State team, you've got players you know. Sadly, Jacob Pullen pulled out, but they're guys you know. That's the reason why it's exciting, because you can remember some guys and watch decent basketball. So when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's pretty rough. K-State's alums, though, they play a little bit later on tonight down at Koch Arena. We have to take one final break. We'll come back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk after this with the final word.
The best thing.
nation. You better wrap it up.
Time to wrap up this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word.
Been a pretty grim Royals season all the way around, but today, one of the grimmer losses, just the routine mundanity of a 3-0 loss at home on a getaway day where your offense can't be fussed to put up any kind of a fight. A 5-pitch 8th inning was the revolting cherry on top of the sundae. That was a really, really gross Royals loss today.
Final word for me is that other than just not liking it because it's new and there's money above the table other than below the table being thrown around, I would love for someone who's proposing a bill about NIL to tell me why do we need national standardization? Why do we need to have one bill that applies to every college, every athlete, every coach, every athletic department? Why do we have to have that? Because that seems to be the assumption with all these bills, and I'm not really sure that's something that we need to be assuming. That'll do it today for 580 Sports Talk. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. Matt Derrick will join us from Chiefs training camp in St. Joe. We'll get you ready for a busy Royals weekend against the Yankees as well. That's all tomorrow. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This is 580 Sports Talk.